Good evening, everybody. It is not Monday, not Tuesday, not Wednesday. It is Thursday. Thursday, and we are still in Wellness Week. Wow, what a time we've had thus far. It has been amazing. So as you're chiming in, I'm going to ask that you all just let us know that you're here. Kevin Brewer, how you doing? Kevin Brewer, good to see you. I'm glad that you're here with us today. And I hope you had a good day. As you're chiming in, you don't want to miss tonight. You don't want to miss tonight. This is the one thing that we need the most, I think. This is my personal opinion. We need the most. Okay, maybe it's just me. I need it. Rest, balance, taking self-care. Oh, my goodness. So I know those that are chiming in are going to get an amazing wealth of information. So as you're coming in, just let us know who's here. Make sure that you share, because sharing is caring. And then help us to know who is on. All right. I'm going to begin. I'm going to start us out with prayer, and then we're just going to move on in. Okay. All right. Dear gracious and heavenly Father, thank you for tonight. Thank you for this opportunity to be found together once again in your presence on wellness. Help us to know what we need to do with wellness. I thank you right now for our guests. Help us to retain the information, get the information, retain the information, and then follow through with action. So we thank you on tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Tap. Amen. I am not going to keep us long before, but I'm not going to be before you long. I'm going to bring our guests right on in here. And that is none other than Bishop Kenneth Chisholm.
Tanya, what's up? What's up? How are you?
Hi, Bishop. I am well. How are you this evening?
Listen, I'm doing phenomenal. I have no complaints. Listen,
I
thank you for having me on. Thank you for
I
having me
am
on.
honored. I'm honored that you said yes. I so appreciate it very much. I don't take it lightly.
Absolutely.
I don't take it
Oh,
lightly. So, tonight we're talking about self-care. We're talking about rest. We're talking about
yes.
balance. We're talking
Yes.
about things that many of us, especially many of us like myself, who don't know how to keep still or who don't know how to say no or who don't know how to stop, needs it. So we
Sure.
end up going to sleep but not resting, right? So,
Right, right,
I am
right.
so excited. I have Sheila Cooper jumped in. She said, "Good evening, amazing pastor. Thanks for the wonderful wellness information to help guide and assist my aging senior body." Listen, sugar. Listen, you ain't said nothing but a word with that one, because I was just telling my sister today, I was like, man, I'm getting old. She was like, no, you're getting older. I said, tell that to my body. Sheila, I said the same thing. Tell it to my body. She said, you look 25. I said, well, my body didn't get that message because my body, the back, the knees, too much. So
Yeah.
Sheila, you are so welcome. I'm glad that it's been helpful to you. So Bishop, tell us, can you please first share who you are, and what leads you to have understanding, or leads you to the topic of self-care?
Sure. My name is Bishop Kenneth Chisholm. I pastor an amazing community of believers in Washington, D.C., Restoration House. I am also an entrepreneur. I have my own clothing line called Restored, and I also have my own marketing business called Kairos Marketing Team. And I'm a musician, and I'm recording artist. So
Yes.
all these things are new. So, but yeah, many different things. But yeah, I'm above everything else. I love God's people, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's powerful. So now that's a lot. That is a lot of things
It
that
is a lot of
God
things.
has here's the key: graced you to do, right?
Yes,
Graced you
yes.
to do.
Hmm.
And so I'm sure you can speak very well to times where you may not have been balanced or getting your,
Absolutely,
or to
absolutely.
tell us how do you juggle that? Like, what, talk to us about kind of even your venture and what has led you to here today.
Sure, sure. I think, as you mentioned, there are many things that we can do, but then finding the things that God has called us to do. And I think
Mhm.
what I had to learn was, though I'm able to do a lot of things, everything is not my assignment.
That's so.
So, yeah, yeah. So that means when you begin to understand that everything or everyone is not your assignment,
Mm,
it kind of helps you put things in proper perspective, and then the no becomes easier, right? I'll be honest, it was hard
mm,
in the beginning, like just
mm.
no, yeah, but it became
So you
it
said like
became
no,
yeah,
like a question.
yeah, it became easier and easier as you realize, wow, though I can do this, this is not my assignment. I'm not called to do this. I'm not called to do this. Because again, and I always share, if we find ourselves doing everything, the assignment that God has for us, then we're really not
Mhm.
effective in that area, because we keep pouring in areas where, it's not really being effective. So really, zoning on the fact who you've been called to, what is your assignment is in this season, and then one of the models that I live by: I only have enough oil for the assignment.
That's so deep.
Yeah,
Tell us
yeah.
what you mean when you say that. You only have oil for the assignment. What does that mean?
It means that, like you mentioned before, God graces us to do certain things,
Yeah.
and then in and of ourselves, there are things that we can do all the time, but if it's not the assignment
Yeah.
that God has given to us at this moment and in this season, we'll
Mhm.
be wasting oil.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes, even as leaders, as pastors and
Mhm.
servants of God, and in your desires to serve people,
Mhm.
sometimes we can, if not careful, can waste oil pouring into people or pouring into
Mhm.
things that don't want the pour.
That's so good. That's good. I so agree with you. I so agree with you. I think, you know, getting to the point of understanding what is I think it starts with knowing what your assignment is. And maybe it's not within ministry, maybe it's your children, maybe your
Yeah,
assignment is
exactly.
your mate, maybe your
Exactly.
assignment is your job at this particular time. Some of us,
Exactly.
God has graced us to do more than one thing, but you got to know what that assignment is. So how do you identify what
Sure.
in that season, what your assignment should be, so that you're not wasting oil?
Absolutely. Of course, being a person of faith, just communication with God to really focus in on, okay, what do I need to be doing now?
Mhm.
Even as us as individuals, we should be evolving, right? So the
Mhm.
things that we may have been doing 5 years, you know, 5 years ago,
Mhm.
as we're growing in grace, and the assignment may change. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes we understand. Unfortunately, the church says, we understand that God calls us to purpose, but
Mhm.
I heard one of my spiritual mentors said recently that God calls us to purposes. So, and a
Mhm.
lot of times we can get locked in
Put on
one
one.
thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
not realize that there are multiple things that he has called us to. And
Mhm.
then we have to go before God and say, okay, hey, where do I need to be focusing my time? Where do I need to be focusing my energy and my resources in this present moment? And I think
Mhm.
when you get a clear understanding of what your assignment is now, then you'll be able to realize, okay, because this is my assignment, this is what I'm going to need in order to do my assignment successfully. That
Mhm.
means that I'm going to I need this, I need that. I have to
Mhm.
incorporate rest. I have to incorporate
Mhm.
self-care. I have to do these things
Mhm.
because if I'm going to show up and be present for my
Mhm.
assignment, I have to show up and be the best version of who I am. And
Mhm.
I can't do it sleepy. I
Yeah.
can't do it tired. I can't
Mhm.
do it worn out. I can't do it frustrated. So I
Mhm.
realized that in order for me to be effective in it,
Mhm.
it starts with rest.
Yeah, that's so good. And here's the other piece. The one piece I also want to invoke in there is timing, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
here's a caveat. If you are not rested and you're not doing the things that you're putting so much energy into everything else, you may miss in 5 minutes the
Listen.
blessing, or the person that you were supposed to meet that's going to grant you with the blessing, or the
Listen.
person that you were supposed to where you were supposed to adhere to, or you're going to move too fast and you should be stayed back and now you're a part of an accident, or things is subject to timing. And
Absolutely.
so we will miss it if we're also not getting the rest, and that's all
Yeah.
a part of that. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think in order for us to be at our best, that means that we not only do we have to get physical rest, but our spirits has to be at
That's
rest,
so good.
right?
Mhm.
Because so many people they go to bed, but they're still not resting, right?
Correct.
You have to be at peace about
Yeah.
the assignment that God has called you to. So all of those things will cause us to really be effective in fulfilling the purposes that God has for our lives.
So if you think back to all of the different ventures that you have going on, because I also want to tackle the marketplace, right?
Hmm.
We are
Hmm.
also, even though we are believers and we have ministry and we do ministry, many of us are called to the marketplace as well. Many of us
Absolutely.
are entrepreneurs. Many of us
Hmm.
have, jobs outside of our jobs.
Hmm.
And um, while we are graced to carry out certain functions, if we're not, I always say this, it's three things. We have to operate in God's will,
Hmm.
his way, and his time,
Hmm.
right? If he willed for us to start a business, we got the will.
Hmm.
He's giving us the instruction on how to do it, we got the way.
Yes.
But it's not today, then it's not the right time, so we shouldn't move. But when we move, even having the will and the way, we will tire ourselves out. We will find ourselves not taking care of ourselves, not eating.
Sure.
We're
Sure.
stressed out about this. But God, you said,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
He did,
Yeah,
but
he did.
time. So, can you think about, has there ever been a time for you where you found that you were not balanced? How did you come to the knowledge of, of hey, I'm out of alignment, or I'm off,
Sure.
or I'm not
Sure.
balanced?
Sure. Sure. Um, Again, definitely not just only being in ministry, but even serving uh, in the marketplace. I remember one particular time. Again, like I used to have the issue of never saying no. Right, I felt like
Mhm.
I had to show up for everyone and for everything. But then looking at my life, things were out of order, things wasn't balanced, and I'm like, wait a minute, this has to stop. This has to stop. I cannot be a true representative ambassador of the kingdom, and my
Mhm.
life is jacked up, right?
Sure.
And then I began to see that my interactions with people were not as fruitful as they could have been or once was
Sure.
because of just being fatigued and just snappy, all those different things.
Yeah.
And again, and I think when God presents us with an opportunity, whether it's in the marketplace or in ministry,
Mhm.
timing is important, right?
Yeah.
And just because He gives us that window of opportunity doesn't always mean that it'll be available,
That's so good. That's
right?
really good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it goes back to what you're saying about His will, His way, His timing, right?
Mhm.
So He can provide the will and the way, but then we also have to be sensitive to know the timing.
Sure.
But again, we will miss these opportunities if we're not in a place of being able to properly discern the time
Yeah.
or properly discern what exactly that we need so we
Mhm.
can show up and actually seize the moment, right?
Sure.
So I remember there was a time in my life when there was opportunities being presented to me, and the
Mhm.
only thing that I needed to do was to show up.
Yeah, my gosh.
Tanya, it was just that easy.
Holy
But
mackerel. Yeah.
but because trying to juggle this and juggle that
Mhm,
and
mhm, mhm.
miss an opportunity of a
Yeah,
lifetime that I believe, and I thank God that God, He's a God of restitution, that sometimes He allows
yeah.
things to
It's a
come
come
back
back. Yeah,
around
yeah,
and,
yeah,
and you're able to redeem the time. But then there's
yeah,
other times when you won't seize
yeah.
that
That's
moment
it.
again.
Yeah, it's true.
And so when that time came and I missed it,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you know what? I got to get this together. And when
Mhm.
this door opportunity comes back again, this is one person that's not going to miss it
Yeah, that's
because
good.
I'm going to do whatever I need to do
Yeah.
so I can have
Yes.
my
Yeah.
things in order. Because
Mhm.
if God grants you with an opportunity that will, because we're always praying, God, if you bless me with this, if you,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
just,
yeah,
I
yeah.
just need you to open up one door,
One
open up
door.
all this other
And
stuff.
I'll walk
And
through it, Lord.
right. And
Meanwhile,
when he,
some of us are
and when he,
asleep in the bed. We're asleep.
listen,
We're
listen,
asleep, or we're sleepwalking.
listen, and
Hmm.
we miss it, and,
Yeah.
and we hear it in corporate America. Time is money,
Time is money. Time is money.
and some things we're sleeping on, and
Yeah,
there goes the blessing
that's so
because
good.
you've
Let's talk.
missed it.
Let's talk a little bit about because you tapped on it. Man, I don't know if she's on tonight. There was a young lady that was on the other night that was talking about how she was just emotionally drained because she's so busy being everything to everybody, right?
Mm.
And
Hmm.
you talked about saying no.
Hmm.
What was it for you that got you to the place of saying, I gotta say no.
Yeah,
I have to do this. Um, I have to do this.
yeah. I think there were different things, events that happened in my life that kind of pushed me to the point of saying the hard no, right? Because of
Mhm.
course we all of us have these conversations with ourselves, like, listen, I'm not going to keep doing this, and I'm going to say no,
Yep,
and
yep,
then
yep.
and then you find yourself reeled right back in to a
Yeah,
situation. But I think what really got me to the point when I became so depleted, where I had nothing else
yeah.
to
To
give,
give.
right? So,
Mhm.
outside of ministry, outside of just trying to juggle things in the marketplace, you're trying to
Mhm.
juggle your personal life,
Yeah,
um, taking care of family when you become a
yeah,
caregiver.
yeah,
It
yeah, yeah,
all of those I've been all of those things, right?
yeah,
And more specifically, where it came to a hard stop was actually during the pandemic. It,
yeah,
you know, so the
yeah.
first few months, of course, being a pastor, no, none of us had
Not
pastors during the
knowing.
pandemic,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So here you are trying to meet the needs of the people. You pastoring, you're having virtual
Yeah,
calls, and you're showing up with people. You're doing all these other things. You're burying people, all this other stuff. Then I'm also being a caregiver,
right.
and I'm doing all of this for everybody else. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what hit me? Um, it was one day I was going through a virtual meeting like I would normally do with,
Mm-hmm.
with one of the members.
Mm-hmm.
And what broke me was the member asked me, because she said, "How are you doing?"
You, man, listen.
Woo,
That's
Tanya,
all
when
it
I
takes
say,
sometimes. Sometimes it just takes that one person to see you. My husband and I now we do this. I see you, the avatar
right,
way. So we
right,
say
right.
that the avatar way. I see
Yeah,
you the avatar way because sometimes you do not. You just
yeah, yeah,
our strong
yeah.
friends we don't check on.
Absolutely,
So that's
absolutely.
powerful.
When I tell you that broke me down, and here I am, sitting on the camera trying to be pastor, like, give me 1 minute, and I'm going off camera. I'm like getting some tissue, like Lord Jesus, Lord. And I'm coming back. How am I doing?
It's
That
okay.
is,
Um,
you know,
one
but
more
when
minute. Hold on.
you know, but when I tell you that one question
That's so
broke me
good.
down, and it made me like look internally to say like, Ken, how
Yeah.
are you doing? And
Yeah.
I began to start looking at all the different things, even prior to the pandemic, right?
Sure.
And I think sometimes even some of us, even in the midst of grief and loss,
That's
some of
good.
us keep some of us keep going
Mm-hmm.
and keep moving without dealing with the pain and the hurt,
That's so good.
because all
Yeah.
of those things also play a part in our effectiveness when it comes
Sure.
to showing up for ourselves, showing up for our family, ministry, all those
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah.
And up to that point, I had just been moving, and I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? I need to stop. And it was through that Zoom call that I
Yeah.
made a decision right in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
I'm going on a 90-day sabbatical.
Good for
And
you.
and I literally, I mean, church, everything, I made sure everything was in place,
Yeah.
but I went away for 90 days. I went to St. Thomas.
Good for
I
you.
literally, I said, listen, I'm
That's
getting
it.
away
Gotta
from
do it. Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
I turned
You
my phone
unplugged.
off. I unplugged. Listen,
Yeah.
I don't even care what's going on for
Yeah.
online worship. I'm not watching service for the
Yeah.
next 90
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
I don't, unless it's, someone in my immediate family has
Yeah. It's
transitioned or
immediate.
not,
Mm-hmm.
I'm off the grid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I tell you that was the start of me taking time for myself. It's now again prior to that. I'm the pastor that will go on vacation. You know, I have some pastors that, well, I ain't had a vacation in
Right.
5 years.
Right.
The devil is a liar. No,
Right.
that's not me.
Anybody got time for that? Listen. All right.
That ain't me.
I'll
Because
take your vacation. How about that?
okay, I promise you, I'll go away at least once a quarter, and I've been
Yeah.
doing it for the past because again, you need to do that. But
Sure.
that time, that's the sabbatical when I really took a step back. I was really, oh my God, Tanya, I can't even begin
Yeah.
to say what that did for me.
Yeah.
Um, and it was during that time, even I was so encouraged and I was even so advised that even in that moment of just
Yeah.
taking time away, not to be so deep to feel like, oh, I had to
Yeah.
pray and fast every day.
No, no,
Like,
no.
not
You needed
like,
to regroup.
yeah, God knows He got
Yeah.
me.
Right, right. Yeah, you needed to, and you still saved, and you still,
All
God
of that,
still blesses you, right? Like,
all of that,
and
right?
that's a good segue, right? To helping people. How do you encourage people to tend to themselves? Maybe they don't have the listen. We passed through St. Thomas. I'm trying to get back. The St. Thomas, that's one of my next one or two spots that I got to hit up. But some people they don't. I got kids. I
Sure,
have work. I don't have the finances. There are other things that
absolutely.
you can do. How do you encourage self-care?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it, putting your it's I think unfortunately sometimes we've been made to feel like putting ourselves first is a bad
Is a
thing.
bad thing. Mm-hmm.
And it's not a bad thing if you don't take the rest and the break that you need and pour into yourself and get recharged and reset. you'll be no good for the people that
Right.
are around you.
Yeah.
Right. And again, no, everybody, and even the blessing is that this young lady that I was talking to virtually, she had been trying to get me to go to St. Thomas for the past 5 years because she had a
Mhm.
house there.
Oh
And
wow.
so come to
Wow.
this lady lets me go for free the entire time.
Wow.
Right. So
Wow.
trust me,
Wow.
I have it like that either. Right.
Right,
But
right, right,
but it
right.
was but
But it was
again,
timing.
the timing.
It was
It, it
timing. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was the timing. But again, even just taking time for yourself by even just taking drives. Like
Yeah.
sometimes for me, it's just
Mhm.
getting in the car,
And just
turning
going.
off the phone, drive down, if you live in the DMV area, drive down 66 while the leaves are changing, Shenandoah Valley, the
Nice. Yeah,
skyline. Just
yeah, yeah.
it's just unplugging from what's norm, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Even if you can't go on a long vacation, just go away for a couple of days. Even if you do a staycation, check in
Yeah,
somewhere and
yeah.
get a change of environment, a
That's
change
good.
of
Yeah,
scenery. It
yeah.
starts there. And again, I encourage people, you also have to prepare
That's
for
good.
your wellness.
That's so listen, last night Apostle said, prepare, plan, prepare. Oh, Don, what was the third one? I forgot, but it was 3 P's. And he
Okay.
talked about planning for your what you got to plan to
Yes.
do certain things. You have to prepare, and
Yes.
the third P is gonna come to me, but this is necessary.
You
You can't
have
just
to.
say, well, you can, but because I've been there, but usually that's in crisis, right?
Hmm.
What worship and wellness, what we hope to do is give you some insight to doing things before you're in crisis
Yes.
on purpose, on purpose.
Absolutely. So planning your wellness, preparing for it, knowing that
Yeah,
listen, there's certain seasons of the year when I'm more busier than others,
yeah,
and so in order for me to approach it with a fresh perspective, I need to take time away. I need to do
yeah,
this. I need to pull away. I need to have self care there. I need to go get a massage.
yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
all of those things are
Mhm,
things that will be beneficial to you, and
mhm,
and and it helps you. I mean, it
mhm,
helps me, right?
mhm.
But it really it helps. Yeah, it just
Yeah,
really just allows you to become a better person, become more focused, become more centered, become more self-aware. And I think that's one of the greatest things, that if we become more self-aware about what we need or what is happening
mhm,
to us in the moment,
mhm.
then we'll be more prone to take, okay, you know what? Yeah, I need to pull back.
Yeah.
I need to step aside. Yeah.
So Sheila put two messages. This is the first one. She said, "What is a good spiritual and physical number of hours for needed sleep?" She said, especially like seniors like me. Stop it, Sheila. Um, what would you recommend when we talk about, right? So, and Sheila, keep in mind, there's a difference between sleep and rest, right?
Hmm.
You can
Hmm.
sleep for 8 hours and wake up and be just as tired, if not
Yeah.
more tired, than
Yeah.
when you went to sleep. Rest speaks to being settled in yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
being settled in your mind and in your spirit and in your essence, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then can one rest. And it
Absolutely.
doesn't mean that everything is taken care of in your life, and it doesn't mean that
Hmm.
you solved and resolved things, but it means that there is a peace
Yeah.
within yourself, even with all that's going on, enough for you to
Absolutely.
rest while
That's
you
right.
sleep.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Absolutely.
So there's a
Yeah.
yeah.
It definitely is. I'm glad you brought that up. There is a difference, and I don't think there is a certain prescribed number because everybody's different. Everybody's patterns are different. For me, I go to bed if there's nothing going on. I go to bed and I'm settling down by 8:30, 9 o'clock,
Yeah,
because again my day starts very early, 4:30, five
yeah,
o'clock in the morning. So I can't stay up to 11 and 12 o'clock at night
sure.
and then expect to have a productive day with only 4 hours of sleep. It just doesn't work for me. But everybody's different. Some people can operate off of 4 or 5 hours of sleep. But
Mhm.
beyond that, it's about being, it's the rest part that's important.
Yeah.
And how do you get to the point of rest?
Mhm.
Even the Bible speaks about that He give His beloved rest. There's a
Mhm.
place He gives us rest, and that rest speaks about peace and tranquility.
Right.
It gives it's about peace outside of the chaos, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless of what's going on. And I
Yeah.
think that peace and that rest only comes
Mhm.
from knowing God, right? And
Mhm.
really understanding that, listen, there are things that are beyond my control.
Sure.
And ain't no need in me sitting up and worrying about it. And God is up 24 hours. So one of us need
One of
uh,
us needs to sleep and sit
one of us need to go to
still.
bed, right? And since, listen, I can't handle it, you got it, big God, and I'm going to
Right.
sleep
That's
and
so
I'm going
good.
to rest, right?
You know
Yeah.
what has become one of my favorite scriptures? And it's so funny, we say it when we're young, and
Mm,
it's the Lord's Prayer.
mm,
And it's verse 2 where it talks about he maketh me lie down
mm.
in green pastures.
Oh, you talking about the Psalms 23?
Psalms 23.
Yeah, yes, yes,
Yep, yep. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures.
yes,
He
yes.
leadeth me
It's
beside
mm-hmm,
still waters. Right there,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
to me, says several things.
Yeah,
One, we just as stubborn as we want to be.
right.
Because green pastures represents, there's a uh, fertility in pastures, right? The green, there's fertility,
Mm-hmm.
there is
Sure.
fruitfulness, there
Mm-hmm,
is but pastures also, there's like this, it's just the lay of the land. And to lead me in to for me to have to go there, he maketh me to lie.
mm-hmm,
That
mm-hmm,
means I am still moving. I'm busy.
mm-hmm.
I don't even recognize that
That you
this
need
I
rest.
need.
Mm-hmm,
That I need. And then the
mm-hmm,
second part, he leadeth me
mm-hmm,
beside still waters. There is
mm-hmm.
a calmness. And I was going to say one of the places that we can consider is go to sit by some water. Just
Listen.
sitting and watching the stillness. There is something about sitting at the stillness
Yeah,
of water
yeah,
that we can find, we can gather our thinking, we can gather
yeah.
our thoughts, we can gather our,
Yep.
maybe you're in a space, take a book and write out how you're feeling. I'm a big
Absolutely.
proponent to hear me say this all the time. Write it out. You can't
Yeah,
talk it out. You don't
yeah,
know, you can't make sense of it. Write down what you do know, even if
yes,
it doesn't make sense, because it's yours. He
yes,
ain't
yes.
on it, right? But
Mm-hmm,
leading me beside still waters tells me that there is something that I need to be calm. He's leading
mm-hmm.
me to a place of calmness. So, I just get
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah. And you know what it took? It took me to be down, to
Mm,
down on my back, literally, physically, for me
wow.
to recognize that. And then that script, it just kept coming back to me. And then last year, my husband took me to one of my favorite places, which was Negril.
Okay.
And we were on what's called the 7 Mile Beach. And
Yes, yes.
when I tell you, we were out, I think one time it was kind of early, well, early for me.
Mhm,
It was earlier in the day. And God said, now look across it was just, it was water for days. It was water for days.
mhm, mhm,
And he said, now look at the stillness of the water. And all I can do, the tears just started rolling down my face,
mhm.
because it was a reminder that, guess what? Even in the midst of all the things that you deal with, all the things that's on your mind, all the things that you're unsettled, God still has a place where he can settle you if
Yeah,
you allow him.
yeah, yeah. And even God models for us the rest that we need,
Yeah.
because even in the creation story, and
Yeah.
on the seventh day, he rested.
He rested. That's good.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, and then also we see in the Gospels and Mark how Jesus stole away from the crowd and
Mm-hmm.
went away
Away from
just a
mm-hmm.
crowd just to be by himself to rest.
The rest. Yeah.
And I don't think, he shows us this example. He's modeling it before us, that it's okay to pull away. It's
Yeah.
okay
Yeah.
to slow down. It's okay to rest. It's okay to recharge. But, for some reason, I think, I'll be honest, my life was like that Energizer bunny at one point, just
Mm-hmm.
kept going.
Mm-hmm.
But at
Mm-hmm.
some point, the battery's going to die, right?
That's so good.
And here's the other thing. Everything that you're doing is going to keep rolling.
It's gonna happen. Oh my goodness. Say it again, sir.
It's
With
going
or without
it's
you. It's gonna
with
manifest
or
itself.
without you, right?
It's
You
true.
know, even one of the things I encourage leaders, because even when I took a sabbatical, Pastor, like, how in the world you leave your congregation? Well, this will show how good of a leader I am,
And
because
when
this
too
the strength of the church shows the strength of the leader in the church shows when the leader is not there.
is not present. It's so
It was
true.
not present.
It's true. Can you speak a little bit about self-care, parents teaching self-care to their children?
Wow.
Right? I think sometimes we as parents, adults, it can be caretakers, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
How do we teach those? And I like always to look at both sides, right? If I'm a
Hmm.
caretaker, the person that I'm caring for needs to understand when I need a moment,
Hmm.
right? As well as me understanding what their needs are. So
Absolutely.
unless we express it and explain it and model it, it's kind of hard for them to get it.
Sure.
Same thing
Sure.
as parents, helping our children to know it's okay to care for you at different times, right? In the school system,
Hmm.
they say, oh, you have a calm down corner. Well, most of these kids, they don't know calm down corner outside of school because where I'm from, listen, if it's a problem, I'm mad, I'm angry, I
Right.
storm, I,
Right.
I scream, I
Right.
shoot, I get a gun, I fight, right?
Hmm.
How would you encourage or empower someone who says, I have a child, or teach
Yeah.
them self-care?
Yeah. I think it starts very early, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because I think when teachers and parents have a very amazing role to play in the life of children, because these are the formative years. So
Sure.
if we're starting early, talking about balance and talking about rest and talking about, hey, you have to learn how to balance yourself and take
Mhm,
time for
mhm,
those things that are important. I think it even
mhm,
starts with, again, these I have nieces and nephews. I don't have
mhm,
biological children of my own, but
mhm,
even in those spaces with my nieces and nephews, sitting
mhm.
down and say, okay, you know what, we're getting ready to have dinner, and we're not going to be on our phone,
That's good.
because this
Mhm.
right here is
Yeah,
important. And I
yeah,
think if as we begin to teach the importance of family, the importance
yeah,
of spending time together,
yeah.
I think it goes a long way,
Sure.
and they may not understand initially, but as they grow up, they'll understand
Yeah.
the importance of it. One of the things that I will have to say, what my mother did, of course, I grew up as a church kid.
Mhm.
Grew up in church.
Right.
So every year we would go to something that's called convocation, and we would go to
Mhm. Right, right, right.
different places,
Right,
and we
right,
would
right.
travel different places
Each
to the
year,
church
yeah.
convocation, and that would
Yeah,
be a week. But what my mother did was like, okay, all right, that was church convocation,
right.
but now let's separate it.
Yeah.
Now we're going on family
Family
vacation.
vacation, that's so good.
So it instilled in my mind, even as a young child growing up, okay, yes, we did this with church, and we
Right.
went away and we traveled, but then
But
after
this
that
was
was
for
over,
you.
this
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
it established in my mind at a very early age that church convocation was not family vacation,
Right, 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 right,
something totally different.
right.
So
Mhm.
even just small things like that, and
Yeah.
that was something that was so small for me. But as I got older, I began to understand. Yeah, like I need a
Mhm.
vacation,
Mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm, mhm.
I was able to understand, like, okay, yeah, this is what I need, right? So I think even as parents start making making things a priority within the family, spending time together, and say, okay,
Yeah,
it's okay for you to need this, or
yeah,
spend time by yourself, or for us to come together as a family. I think that's where it starts.
that's key. Yeah.
As it relates to the caregivers, because I've been a caregiver,
In that
right?
role, yeah.
I've been in that role, so it's like, how do you pull away without having them feel as though that you're not concerned about their needs, right? But I think the
Mhm.
best way to communicate that is saying, in order for me to provide to you what I'm giving, there are
Mhm.
times when I have to step back and regroup.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
not doing what I'm doing, even though I'm taking this moment to rest, is not because I'm not concerned about you or
Sure.
love you. It
It's
is because
because I'm
I am
concerned.
concerned and I love you.
Very
And
true.
and I realize
Yeah.
that if I'm tired and if I'm overwhelmed,
Mhm.
I'm not going to be able to provide to you the
Sure.
best care, that I'm going to slip, I'm going to mess up, I'm going to miss something. And what
Yeah.
I don't want to do is mess up or do anything that will hinder your health and your growth and your
Yeah.
development
Yeah.
because I'm tired. So
Yeah.
it'll be better for me to step away and get the rest that I need so I can come back refreshed and do it, and do it better. And
Yeah.
I even want to plug this because I don't know if someone is watching, because I think sometimes it's that hard decision of when you have to come to make that decision. Do I have what it takes to actually be a caregiver, and when do I transition
Mhm.
from trying to do it on my own to let
Mhm.
somebody else
Oh,
do
that's
it?
good. Talk about that, sir.
You know what I'm saying? Because some people are in that struggle, and they're in that, well, you know what? Well,
Yeah.
I promised my loved one that I'll take care of them. I promised my loved one that I'll never put them in a home. I
Yeah.
promised my loved one that I'll be here to do it. But
Yeah.
the reality is, physically, you're not able to do it.
That's so good.
Your body is breaking down because
Yeah.
you're not trained to do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You don't have the training, the resources, all of these other
Yeah.
things, and you're making a decision to get some assistance, or
Ooh.
even unfortunately having to put them in a place where they can get 24-hour care,
Oh
is
my God.
not because you don't love them,
Right.
it's because you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, that's so good. But but that comes with a measure of guilt, right?
Yes,
There's
yes, yes.
there's that feeling of I feel guilty because I don't want to break my word, or I don't want to break my promise, or I don't want them to feel a particular way. And
Yes.
so there's that level of guilt that plays on us that
Yeah.
makes us say, I can't do this. I gotta push it through. But you made a valuable point that in the process, we're actually killing ourselves faster
Yeah.
because now I'm unable to self-care. I'm
Yes.
unable to self-regulate when I'm feeling frustrated. I'm
Yes.
unable to eat appropriately, which we're going to go to next. I'm unable to do the things that I need to give them that care. Because I'm actually have to have you back because I want to have a group of people, a group of caretakers on to have a panel talk. Because
Sure.
I think that there are a lot of people that are out there or are approaching that time in their life, whether they're caring for a loved one, a
Yes.
mate,
Hmm.
a parent, um,
Yes.
even a child. I have people that are caring for disabled children.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
what does that look like? So
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm gonna definitely have to have you back on that point
Sure.
because
Sure.
I think there are things that are not being said. And
Hmm.
this is what this platform is for, to talk about the hard stuff that most people don't want to talk about
Yeah.
in the churchdom world. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um eating.
Yes, that's all a part of self-care. And again, taking the time to eat.
Yeah.
So many times we're so busy, we're on the go, and I hear people say, "Well, I forgot, I didn't eat. I forgot to eat. Oh, or I'll eat later."
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
But all of that is a part of self-care.
Sure.
Eating right, again, and not even just about getting to the gym, but just walking. That's all a part of
Yeah, that's so good.
self-care. Even when it comes down to eating, cooking your food, just
Oh boy, yeah.
taking time to prepare your own food can be so therapeutic.
It could
And
be
just
when you're not tired.
when you're not tired, right? But it can be so
Right. Yeah,
therapeutic,
that's
just
so good. That's
taking the
good.
time to sit down and think out your meals, do meal prep. It really helps, right?
Yeah.
And then when you become focused and then realize, okay, hey, I need to get my rest. So therefore, I'm not waiting to 8 or 9 o'clock to eat. And I
Yeah.
gotta get ready to jump into bed. No, I gotta eat at a good time, so I'm not laying down on food. So if I'm not gonna exercise, I need a eat a
Mm-hmm.
little early in the day,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things, because
Yeah.
even the food that we eat plays a part on how we respond.
It's true. It's so
It's
true.
so many different studies out there on,
Yeah.
if we eat certain foods, and and that's why it's so important to
Yeah.
know what works for you. Get a nutritionalist. Find out what works for you. As far as uh, things you should be eating, things you should not be eating. All of those things are part of self-care.
So someone watching, this is a wealth of information, right? Sometimes people get very overwhelmed because they are trying to do everything, and
Hmm.
then we end up not doing anything, right?
Sure,
Because
sure.
it's so much.
Yep.
Where would you recommend someone start? I'm deciding that I just want to make some changes. I want to change my eating. I want to change my, exercising. I want to change getting rest. I want to take off my plate things that are not for me. But where do I start? That seems like a lot, past Bishop.
Ken, it's fine. I think
Ken, Pastor Bishop,
it's all good, Tanya. It's all
you
good.
and all your people. How where would you say, what would you recommend?
Wow, it can seem overwhelming, but I think it starts with you centering yourself, and writing down. Do a list of all the things that you're doing.
That's good.
Start, just write a list of
That's good.
all the different things that you're doing, and see, do I really need to be doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Make a list, like, and then really be honest. Like, okay, yes, I'm involved in this. I'm involved in that. But how effective am I? And,
Yeah.
and am I really seeing the fruit of it? Like,
Mm.
can somebody else do it? So I think it starts with identifying everything that you're doing, so you can free up your time to
Yeah.
do some of the things that you need to do for
Mm-hmm.
yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think just starting a simple list with um, writing down everything that you're doing to see, okay, do I really need to be doing this? Is this effective? Can I say no to this? Is this, I think it starts there.
Yeah.
And then you begin to see how much time you're gaining, right? And then you, with the free time that you get back, it's like, oh, I have time to go to the grocery store. I
Yeah.
have time to cook a meal.
Yeah.
I have time to go for a walk,
Yeah.
because I'm not doing all of these things, right?
Yeah.
So I think it really starts with just centering yourself and saying, where can I say no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I don't have to do all of this.
Sure.
And really, for those that are, people of faith, just ask God, like, where do I need to focus right now?
Yeah. That's so good. Wow, that's so good. Wow. Well, Bishop, it is almost our time. Is there any final Sheila said, well, I'm gonna answer this one. She said, is it good or bad to take naps during the day when you don't receive enough hours? I'm gonna tell you, I can't say if it's good or bad, but I can tell you I do them.
Listen,
If
I
I can
promise
get a
you.
nap in, I will get a good nap in here. The other day, I was up late. I was busy all day long and came home about 4:30. I closed my eye. It was about 5:30. I closed my eyes for an hour and was back up on worship and wellness. I'm just saying, if it works, it works. If you can get it in, get it in. I
Yeah.
think our body responds to the rest that we need that we're not getting. So if your body is saying take a nap and you're able to do it, I say do it.
Yeah, I agree. Go for it. Go
I
for
say
it.
do it.
Yeah.
And then she said, thanks for sharing the knowledgeable information, Pastor Ken and Pastor Tanya, that getting rest in comparison to the number of hours of sleep is very important to our body. Good. I'm glad that you were able to get that information, that the difference between sleep and rest.
Yes.
Any final
Yes.
thoughts before we close tonight, or anything you wanted to say that you didn't get a chance to say?
Sure. My final thought would be, show up for yourself. Show up for yourself, because if you don't show up for yourself, you won't be able to show up for nobody else. Be self-aware about what you need. Be self-aware about the rest that you need. Be self-aware about the time and everything that you're involved in. And it's okay to put yourself first. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's
That's so
it's
good.
okay. It's okay to say no. It's
Oh
okay to
my
say
goodness,
no.
it's okay to say no. Show up for yourself, and it's okay to say no. That's two
Listen,
heavy hitters that you can start working on right now, aka
absolutely,
immediately.
absolutely,
Bishop, I
absolutely.
so appreciate you, and the information this evening has been
Oh wow,
amazing. And I, like I said, would love to have you back on the panel when we
absolutely.
set up sometime in the few months from now
Sure,
on
sure.
who's caring for the caretakers. So
Cool. Let's
um
do it. Let's
yeah,
do
yeah,
it.
I appreciate it. Listen, you all, tonight has been phenomenal. If you're, for those that are watching, there's been a shift. Friday will not be in person, it will be virtual, and there will be no Saturday wellness. So that will not be in person at either. So tomorrow will be the last night of worship and wellness, and we will have Bishop Porter with us talking, Sterling Porter talking about spiritual wellness. So you don't want to miss that. Again, sharing is caring, and here we believe in biblical principles with practical steps. I love you all. I pray this has been well, and share, because sharing is caring. Love you all, and good night.